Now that you've had the opportunity to revisit your reading standards for informational text and writing standard number 2 for writing informational expository text, let's take a moment and analyze how those standards align with one another. Beginning with the reading standards. When students are reading informational text, they should be able to say what the text says explicitly and implicitly. In other words, what is the message? They should also be able to determine the central idea of this text and be able to discuss its development, how it emerges, how it is shaped and refined by specific details. Also, students should be able to analyze and discuss the structure of an analysis or series of ideas or events, including the order in which the points are made, how those points are introduced and developed, and the connections that are drawn between them. And that's talking about the specific content. What information does the author include to make that message clear? Standards 1, 2, and 3 really talk about what the text says. It's really about the content. On the other hand, standards 4, 5, and 6 really look at how the author says it, the craft of the text. And so even in informational text, students should be able to determine the meanings of words and phrases, including figurative, connotative, and technical meanings, and then analyze the cumulative impact of those word choices on meaning and tone. So what words do the authors use in order to convey their messages? Also, we want students to look at how an author organizes or structures their claims. And we're talking about introducing an idea or a claim, and then the order in which those claims and ideas are developed. And that might be through particular sentences, from one sentence to the next, from paragraph to paragraph, or from one larger portion to the next portion. So Standard 5 really talks about text structure. Standard 6 talks about the point of view, perspective, or purpose in a text, and how an author uses rhetoric to advance that point of view, perspective, or purpose. So now let's go on to the writing standard number 2 and see what kind of language in that standard aligns with the reading standard. When students are asked to write informational explanatory text, we want them to examine and convey complex ideas and concepts and information, and that should be done clearly and accurately through the effective selection, organization of the content. So look at how that aligns with the expectations for reading information. We want students to be able to determine what the text says explicitly and implicitly, or in other words, clearly and accurately. And we want them to select the best content, organize it in a way that meets that purpose, and have good, strong content in their writing. When we break that standard down into the different components, students should introduce a topic, organize complex ideas and concepts, and make connections and distinctions, and also use text features to help with that clarity. And this aligns with the information in standards 1, 2, and 3 in the reading. We see develop in both content and craft of the reading standards. We want our students writing to develop the topic with well-chosen, relevant, and sufficient facts, definitions, details, quotations, or commentary. We want them to use appropriate and varied transitions that will link the major sections of the text together, and this is craft, and clarify the relationships among the complex ideas and concepts. We want the students to use precise language and domain-specific words, and that aligns so well with reading standard number 4. We want the students to establish and maintain an appropriate format, which would be the structure, the organization, the style that ties into the language that is used, and the objective tone, which also ties into the language that they use. And finally, we want our students' writing to have a concluding statement or section that supports the information. And that goes back to reading standard number 3, where we want the introduction. We want students to be able to explain the introduction and the development of the ideas or the series of ideas and the connections that are drawn. And so I hope this helps you see that when our students are reading informational text and analyzing for these components of content and craft, that strengthens their own writing of informational text, because they can use what they know from what authors do when they are creating their text, and the students can replicate that in their own writing.